Hi guys, and welcome to Mom Babes, where every mom is a babe. And if you're like, Christina, I don't feel like a babe, all I see is everyone around me moving forward in their life, and I just feel stuck. I feel like everyone is achieving what they want to achieve, and for whatever reason, I can't get anywhere. Then this channel is especially for you. None of us has it all together, but we are all creatives. And if you're like, I'm not a creative, that's a lie, because raising a live human being is the most creative thing that there is. Be sure to subscribe and ding the bell to get notified each time I release a new video so that you will never have to miss one. Today's episode is called Comparison is the Killer. I purposefully left the end of the sentence blank, so comparison is the killer of fill in the blank. Mostly my intention for this is to say that comparison is the killer of creativity. That's how I know I've experienced it in my life, and a lot of close friends of mine have also talked about this. And but you can apply it to being the killer of dreams, goals, life in general. Comparison can really undermine what you are trying to achieve. So this is the first thing though. Comparison in and of itself is not a bad thing. So our brains need to know how to compare things. For example, if something is big and something is small, you don't know if it's big or small, except that you compare them to one another. Like the words big and small can't even exist unless there is some level of comparison. If something is hot or cold or colder, your brain uses this. Comparison is inundated into our brains and affects all of our senses deeply and intimately. That being said, you cannot stop yourself from comparing things. It's how we grow, it's how we learn, it's how we experience the world around us. So it is not inherently bad. So if you find yourself comparing yourself to other people, it doesn't mean that you lack anything. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means that you're a human being. So I'm gonna get vulnerable with you guys and say that I have too compared myself to other people. What? I know, shocking. But for me, it's kind of weird because I've never been that person that's like, oh, I want to be this person, or I want exactly what that person has. Mostly it's more like, I like this one little aspect of their lives and I think it'd be cool to have that thing. For me particularly, it's like artistic accomplishments. Like that's my passion. That's what I love. Anything that has to do with creating, writing, things like that. I'll see someone achieve something and be kind of like, oh man, I don't want to be them, but I wish that me and my life with my family, everything about me would stay the same, the core, and I like who I am, but I just want to achieve what they've achieved, if that makes sense. For example, if someone has published a book and you, this miscellaneous person, it's me, has not yet published a book, you're like, gee, I really wish that I could have published a book by now. And so it's a really specific example. Obviously, you can apply that to whatever relates to you. But the thing that's so unrealistic about that is that we as people are not just a sum of these individual areas. So if you pull this area out of somebody's life, say this person is such a great cook and you're like, man, I really wish I was excited about cooking and passionate like this person is. You can take that from their life, but then this other person is man, they're so good at working out and they are so in shape. I want that part of that person's life, but that's not real. You can't really pull people apart that way, because the person that is really good at cooking is also dealing with, a big, family crisis that's going on. You don't always know the full picture. And that person that is working out so hard is doing that to de-stress from this other financial stress that is going on in their life. So it's really unfair to pull these pieces, the best pieces out of people's life, and not take the whole part and allow that to be a trigger for you to compare yourself to them, because you're setting yourself up for this comparison that is not really real, could never even really be real. I think a big one that hits home for people is goals that you had personally for yourself that you wanted to achieve by a certain time or by the time you reach a certain age, and you look around at that age and you're not comparing yourself to other people, you're kind of comparing yourself to like the ideal version of yourself. I do this all the time because I have, you know, like dream perfect Christina and what she would have accomplished, and you know, when I was 12, what I mapped out for her life and how it looks very different from my real life right now. And reconciling that, not that you even like compare it to other people, but for yourself, like in your own world, out of your own creativity, what you wanted to make of your life and how that contrasts to real life. So that's some of the ways that we do compare. I don't really, I mean, some people might deal with like, I really want exactly what this person has. If you look at someone else, let's say they go on this really great trip, like the trip that you've always wanted to go on, that you've dreamed about going on your whole life. And then you see photos of them going on this trip and there you are at your desk, you know, on your 10-minute break, not super loving the client that you have to work with today and really stressed out and thinking, gosh, like, I'd love to be on this vacation, and not just any vacation. This is like the vacation I wanted to go on. And so what your brain is doing is saying, hey, like, I'm not in the best place mentally right now, but it seems like this person is. But you don't, I mean, we're hoping that their vacation is going great, but you just don't have all the pieces. Maybe they really needed that vacation for something else that's going on. You know what I mean? It's, like I said, it's hard to pull the best part of people's lives out and make that the standard because it's not a real standard. We all deal with this comparison thing. It's not something that we can just change our whole brains and way of thinking, the way that we were designed to think, and turn it off. So on the other hand, what can we do when we come to these moments of comparison? What is something practical that we can actually do to start to change the way, like our brain makes certain pathways that it goes over and over and over again. So we're going to try to like stop those pathways that are saying comparison and then goes to negative, comparison, negative. And we're going to do something that says comparison, let's move that in a positive direction. So I'm going to give you some tactics that you can do, some things that I have worked on that, because I actually really struggle with this super bad. Just like embarrassing to say because no one should struggle with this, but you know, being a naturally competitive person, it's like a touchy area. And I've had to do a lot of work in this area. So I'm going to tell you what I did, and like a lot of work. So if it can work for me, it can work for you. The first thing that I've learned to do is to immediately, like when I feel that feeling of, oh, like wanting to compare and leading into a negative thought pattern, I will immediately say out loud or physically write down a list of things that I am grateful for. And you guys, there is unlimited things that you could be grateful for. You can start wherever. And even if you can't like think of anything to be grateful for, if you're just in like the worst position ever, you can just Google, what can I be grateful for? And you will find something that will lead you down a rabbit trail and you will discover all the things you'd be grateful for. Like, I am grateful that I am alive today because not everyone is still alive today. I am grateful that I ate food today. Hopefully you got to have food today. I am grateful that I don't live in the 1700s when everybody had BO. But actually, like, think about that. Think about, like, before deodorant, what life was like and how smelly everyone was. And also before, like, washing machines, when you had to physically wash things and then you wore things for longer because you didn't have a washing machine to wash things and dry them quickly. It was a process to do laundry. You only had so many outfits. And, like, no shame, but everyone probably had such bad BO and walking around and living in that world and you just got used to it. Aren't you so glad that's not your life right now? And that's kind of an extreme example, but if you start to pick out the things that you are grateful for in your life, obviously you can make them more personal based on what you have been given, what cool things have happened to you in the past year, even amidst the really hard things. What job you have or what opportunities you have, what friends you have, your relationships, the place that you live. and your health, things that you can do, things that you do have access to, all of those things, you can start to out loud say what you're actually grateful for, which when you do it out loud, even though it sounds silly, in your brain, it does something different. Your brain is going to say, oh, we're saying something now, and it's not this usual negative path that I go down. I am thinking about what is good about my life, and it's going to change your brain the more that you do it. So another thing that you can do is make a list of dreams and a list of goals just for fun. At this point, we're not being practical. At this point, we're just dreaming, we're having fun, we're writing it down, or we're thinking about it, whether it's to do a project in your home, or let's do the vacation example. There's this place that you've really been wanting to go to, and it would be a dream to be able to travel to this place. So daydream a little bit. Say what we're grateful for, daydream about what we want to do, and then you can go into, okay, well, what is an actual way that I can start to make this dream that I have a reality? And for the vacation example, that could be, okay, well, let's start just Googling and researching how much does it cost to stay there? How much would it cost to travel there? And kind of get like an amount of how much in real life this would actually cost. And instead of looking at that amount and being like, that will never happen, this is ridiculous, to actually like, okay, maybe I can set aside, even it's the smallest amount of money, $10 a month, whatever it is. So in our example, if you are diligent about just putting aside whatever tiny little money that you can towards this dream vacation, after a couple months, even if it's a small account, you're like, hey, you know, I still have this account that I made a couple months ago, and I have still, you know, given to it. It's still really small, but it's that you are actually physically creating space in your life for this dream to happen. And that is so brave and so powerful, and do not undermine the small beginnings. And like I said, I'm talking about a trip here, but this could apply to whatever you're trying to accomplish. I feel like so often it's just doing that tiny little step. So I just want to encourage you, whatever that is, take the baby step and start moving in the direction of this amazing goal that you have. So the other thing I like to think about is what we call stay in your lane. So when I think of stay in your lane, I think of several different things. First of all, I think of you physically driving on the car, and you, instead of looking at the lane that you're driving in, are glancing over at your person who's driving next to you. You're looking at their car to see, I don't know, how shiny it looks or whatever. It shows you how when your focus is somewhere else, you derail your own path. So it's not that you're not doing your path because you can't do your path. And then sometimes it makes me think of, which if you do in traffic like I do, where you like try to change a lane to like, oh, this lane looks like it's moving faster, and try to change a lane, oh, this lane looks like it's moving faster. And then as soon as you change, it reminds me of that old movie Office Space. As soon as you change, your lane that you were in starts moving. And so it's this, just stay in your lane. Like, don't always be looking around at everything else that's going on, because you're trying to read into the future and you can't always read the future. Stay in your lane. And what is it as far as like traffic goes? If you speed, you're only gonna get somewhere like X amount of time faster. And in the grand scheme of things, like trying to shift this lane to drive really fast to go here, like you may get there the exact same time as the person that just stayed in their lane and they didn't have to like hustle and move and do all this stuff. How I apply stay in your lane to my life is I always think of it as discipline. Discipline to keep going, to keep moving on your path. Stay in your lane, be disciplined. So I'll give you an example. Every once in a while, I will watch a rom-com movie, and as I'm watching it, I will see like the clever things that the writer did, the choice that the, you know, director made here, and like it comes together in this beautiful, beautiful story. And I will sit there at the end while the credits are rolling, and I will get angry, which makes it's so silly. So I get angry because I'm mad that I didn't write it because it's so good. And, you know, I've analyzed like why, or if I read a book that is just has a concept that I'm passionate about and I wish I'd written that book, I never have the reaction like immediately like, oh, that's so great. That's so cool that they wrote this book. And I also have this idea. It just immediately goes to this anger, which comes out of jealousy, which comes out of, this is my competition. They are out there doing what I want to do. And I see the distance between the level that they're at and the level that I'm at. And instead of just staying in my lane, my focus shifts for a second to, man, I feel like I have so far to go to even reach, where they are. So what I have to do at those points is get back in my lane and turn off the TV or whatever I was doing and go sit down at my laptop and start writing a story. So let yourself be challenged by whatever you experience that gives you that little like you have this temptation to be jealous and envious and like want this thing. Just let it challenge you to come back to improving on that thing for yourself. So work even harder to put aside that savings for that vacation, sacrifice more so that you can make that happen. Or for me, it's stopping watching other people's projects and go work on my own project and put the hours in, put the time in to get better, to research, to do whatever I can in some small way to move forward in my lane. I think a big part of at least comparison killing creativity is that it kind of prohibits you to be true to yourself in two ways. The first way is that you see someone else do an idea and then you want to copy that idea exactly the same way that they did it because you think it's successful. Not because you're passionate about it, not because it's something that you've also been thinking about, but because you're like, oh, they did, like almost like a formula. They did it this way. I want to do it the exact same way so that I too can be successful. There is, I guess, a little bit of business wisdom in there, but you can apply it as fits to your life. But if you're just like an empty copy of this other person, it's not going to ring true to what you're trying to achieve anyway. More importantly, which I think more people struggle with this part, is the idea that, oh, I want to do this thing, but this person has already done this thing. I run into this all the time, you guys. This person already has this idea. This script has already been written. This mom blog is already out there. Do you know how many like mom YouTube channel shows there are? I do. There's a lot of them. And yet you are watching this specific one. So let that encourage you that there is something that you can give that is specific to you. Don't let the idea that someone has done it before deter you, because who knows, you may do it better. You may be able to take that idea that you think is so prolific, and there's this whole subgroup of people that you can interact with this idea with, and they will be more receptive from you because of who you are, not because you're trying to copy, but because you had this idea. I hate the idea that things get cut off before they're even started, that we allow ourselves to be limited just because we compare something else or we see something else and we think, oh, it's already be done. There is room for all of us. I think that the world's best creative projects have probably never really even been created because they were suffocated at the beginning by, not by outside circumstances, but by someone's own self-doubt, possibly triggered from comparison. And so that is what we're combating today. Don't look at other people around you. If you have this idea and you've seen it done somewhere else, do it anyway. And if you have to, like, put some blinders on and, focus on the project from your point of view, or allow yourself to be inspired by other people and seeing what they've accomplished, to go for it and still do the thing, man. So think about this. What if there was only ever one food blog where you could get online recipes? There's just one for the entire world. All these millions and billions of people, just one. Like, actually think about that. Like, if we all had to get on the internet and we could all only go to a one food blog, and the only recipes we were ever exposed to were the ones on that one food blog. Think of how limiting that would be. And if that food blogger didn't happen to be vegan or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you have limited options. There is something that you're passionate about that, yes, although someone's done it before, you have never done it before. And so you are going to add your own twist to it. So, I mean, if I can sound like a broken record, get out there and do it. You can do it. And then some of you are like, well, like the people I compare myself to aren't these distant people on the internet. They're like real people in my actual lives that I have to hear about how awesome they are all the time. But this is the thing. So you are the sum of the people that are closest to you. And so if you have a lot of awesome people around you who are doing awesome things, that also says good things about you. And instead of being sad that you have not accomplished that thing, let them rub off on you and just think like how cool that these people that are doing these things are in my circle, and I can talk to them about it. Just know that you are a creative and you can find a new and creative way to move forward on your ideas. So let's get to the root. Like, why does this at the core, this comparison thing, trigger negative feelings inside of us? So I feel like it always comes back to our insecurities and our shortcomings. It highlights those things that we don't necessarily absolutely adore about ourselves. And it is a very obvious example and kind of painful reminder of, oh yeah, I actually did want to own a home by this time and that still hasn't happened for me. Or yeah, I really did want to be with my forever person and I haven't found them yet. Those kinds of things, they're not little and they're not trivial and they can be very painful. And so it's hard to reconcile those things. And that's why comparison is so hard, in that it's not necessarily, oh, I want what they have, but man, this thing I really wanted for me, I'm so sad that it hasn't happened yet. And so how do we use that and those thoughts and feelings to move in a good direction instead of going into this self-pity, loathing kind of ugly space? For example, when I watch this movie that I wish I had written, I go ahead and I go work on my writing to improve my writing so it can be at the level that it can actually be published, that it can actually become something, a film series, whatever in the future. Or I could sit there and watch another movie and eat more ice cream and just be mad that I didn't write it. Which is, you have the choice, which is the one that you're going to choose. And the more that you do this, the more that you will see it will become a pattern and a habit in your life and something that builds more of a lifestyle and a new way of thinking. And you'll find it'll filter into other parts of your life too. I know that when we see someone, we are naturally sometimes triggered, at least to, and this is an old, since the dawn of time, this idea that you must come down so that I can go up, which at its base has this foundation of there is not room for all of us. We cannot all be in this world together. We cannot all have these creative ideas. And I just want to say that that is a lie. You do not need to bring someone down so that you can come up. There is a space for generosity where you can speak life to that person, that you can encourage them in their goals. And on the reverse side, you might find that that person brings you the very encouragement that you need toward your goals. And so we end up in this place of mutual help instead of in this place of like, I don't like that they did this and I want to do that. And then there is no exchange of help there. And you will find that as you are generous and you reach out and encourage people, like, people are so grateful and really excited to be reciprocal. Let's say you're like, Christina, it's too late. I'm already self-wallowing, self-pity. Like, I'm too far gone. I'm not cool. Everyone else is cooler than me. Fill in the blank. Well, think about this. I'm gonna kind of get you some details on the probability of you as you are today, now, actually even ever existing. So, according to the Cleveland Clinic, conception only happens 25 to 30% of the time when an egg and a sperm are near each other. Assuming that the average woman has 100,000 viable eggs and the average man produces about 12 trillion sperm over the course of his reproductive lifetime, we can estimate that the probability of a single sperm and single egg combination resulting in a successful pregnancy is approximately 1 in 1.2 quadrillion. I didn't know what a quadrillion was. I had to look it up. But so you know how a million is 1 and then 6 zeros? A quadrillion is 1 and 15 zeros. So then I was like, is that like a million? Because if you had 6 zeros, then if you doubled that to 12, would that be a million? So would it be 100 million? Who can, like, who even understands how, so 1 out of 100 million, or 1.2 quadrillion, whatever that is, not even something that we can really even understand. That is like the probability that you are you today is crazy. You are so unique and so special and so cool that you are even alive. Like, think of all the eggs and sperm and possibilities and people that are never even here because you're here. There is no one else exactly like you, and you were born for such a time as this. So this is where I like to dive into dreams. I love talking about dreams. I'm a natural dreamer, and I like to encourage the dreams in other people. So let's sit down for a second and think about you, think about your experiences, think about the things that you've been through in your life, and let's just start to dream together. What is it that you love? What is it you like to do? What are you passionate about? And start to get to the core of how that developed. You know, what things are you really good at? What gifts do you have? How do you look at the world? How does that bring something that's cool and different from how everybody else looks at the world? What is your story? Like, let's start to go through these things and how that feeds into the dream that you want. Now let's think about something that you just naturally love. You get excited about. It's so fun. Think about how you can start to bring that piece that is just makes you light up, that makes you shine on the inside, start to bring that into your life. And I do not recommend doing something really dramatic like, I'm gonna quit my job and move to this place and start over and all of that. I don't recommend that. I feel like that brings potential for a lot of challenges and a lot of transitions, which is hard and may suffocate the dream. So let's not go there. Let's instead living the life that we're living, walking the life that we're walking on our journey, start to bring little tiny small bits and pieces of that dream into our life. So for you, it may be like, there's this thing that I want to do that I don't even know anything about. So let's start researching. How do people do this thing? What can I learn about this thing? What are the aspects of that thing? Maybe, start watching videos or reading books or whatever you can learn about that thing. Maybe that's a small way you can just start to bring it in. And maybe you can make it into a hobby. Maybe you can intentionally start to carve out a small time each week, 5, 10, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, whatever you have once a week to start devoting to this hobby or this thing that you love, the dream. And then you'll find that once you do that consistently, even if it's not every week, even if you fall off some weeks, once you generally start to just do this in the background of your life, you will find that it refreshes the other parts, the everyday parts of your life. Because although you may have to work a job that you don't love, you have this thing in your pocket that gives you purpose, that gives you meaning. And that's what we're trying to get to here. Like, you have specific talents which are going to lead to your purpose, and bringing that purpose into the background of your life until it just kind of fills and flows out into the rest of your daily life. So there is a part of dreaming that is very hard and very painful, and I'm actually really sensitive to opening yourself up to wanting good things because you have experienced disappointment in the past, and there still might be woundings and things that are hard about this dream, or I've already failed once, twice, 3 times, 10 times, 12 times. And instead of saying like, hey, the greatest people just persevered, they did it, X amount of times before they found whatever. All I want to say is that I hear you. It is hard. It's hard to want things. It's hard to dream for things. It's hard to be disappointed and then to come back swinging. I know that it's hard, and it's okay that it's hard. It's okay that it takes all your energy to even try to do it. It's okay that it hasn't turned out how you wanted it to. What's important is that, like I said, just in the smallest way, nothing big here, just bring that dream a little bit back and let it live and breathe just a little bit, and see how you feel about it, and see how it can grow. I know for me, the many times in my life where I have been disappointed and not want to dream, I have tried to murder and squash and kill my dream and suffocate it and make it die, make it die, make it die. But this thing inside me, it just won't die. It won't die. I really wish it would, because my life would be easier if this thing would just die, but it won't. That's the thing that, unfortunately, you need to give life to. Dreaming is hard, but we do it. And it's okay that it's hard. There is a part of this comparison thing too that relates to the friendships that you have, particularly if you're in a toxic group of friends, and you might know that you're in a toxic group of friends, or you might not know that you're in a toxic group of friends. I'm going to do a whole series on like all the things on friends, but real quickly, negative talk. If you feel like people are mean to you or talking behind your back or putting you down, or every time you have an idea, they don't like it and they make you feel stupid. Those are the kinds of games like we don't have time for. You have a dream, you have a purpose. We can't deal with these people that are trying to bring you down. So look for ways to find new friends, to find better friends. And if you're like, I really need these people, I don't know how to find new friends. In the meantime, just don't engage in that behavior with them. If they want to talk smack about whoever behind their back, just don't do it. And try to speak life to them. And those kinds of people, depending on how they are and how open they are to learning, may or may not understand and be like, what? Like, and they'll notice. And you might even be able to be an influence on that group of friends. But also you really need to find better friends, because you can't carry that mantle on your own. It's too hard. It's too much. Social media. Here we go, guys. I feel like I talk about social media a lot, and I don't always have the most positive things to say about this. Does anybody else feel like it's created more problems than it's solved? So put your phone down. Put your phone down. Get off social media. Much easier said than done. Turn off the notifications. Put on do not disturb. Carve out time away from your phone. Like, get off your phone. And if you're like, no, like I need a screen all the time, well, then do this instead. Instead of opening Instagram when you're bored and scrolling to see, whatever you go on to see, and watching these dumb reels that aren't going to add any value to your life. Yeah, you go ha 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 for a second, but instead, why don't you open your Photos app, not your social media, to look at your account where you can be triggered to look at other social media things. Close that app, open your Photos app where it's just you, just the photos that you have. Scroll back to a year, see what you were doing a year ago. Look at the videos and pictures and highlights and funny things that happened to you. Reflect on the things that are positive in your life, in your actual real life that you actually experienced. Oh, wasn't it cool that we went to that place? Oh, wasn't it cool I went to see that person? Oh, look at this picture. I really like the way I captured the flower in the sun, or whatever. Look at your life. Look at your photos. Invest your time in valuing the journey that you have been on and reflecting and enjoying that, instead of like looking at needless stuff to fill blank space that makes you feel like you need to compare yourself to other people and see how many likes they have. Or don't mess with that. You don't have to mess with that. You are fighting the desire to do that because so much money is invested in getting you on social media and on your phone. But there is a way in which you can consciously say, no, like, I'm going to start rooting for myself instead of spending all my downtime looking at these other people. Or better yet, instead of getting on social media, go write the book, go, journal about the thing, go to literally cook a meal, go sit and stare at a wall, do anything else but get off your phone. Now I get it. Some people are like, I have to be on my phone for work. Social media is my job. Well, you can still create boundaries in which if you have to post something, get on, post it, get off. Hard to do. But the more that you practice doing it, the more that it will bring space and life to your life. Now, you also have to know yourself. I have friends that have straight up just deleted their social media at like all of it, because they found that it suffocated them creatively. So they could not even think about creating because they're constantly comparing, like, oh, this person did this. Oh, my idea isn't good as this. And instead of, still doing the thing, they just quit. And so know yourself. If you don't do well with looking at other people's lives and how great everything is, then don't look at other people's lives and how great it is. Focus on your life, focus on your goals. And I know that sounds mean and like really harsh, but I'm just so passionate about you doing what you need to do to achieve this heart thing, this dream. And it is so precious and so important. Don't let it be undermined by a phone. Also, does anybody else think about social media this way? I almost feel like sometimes when I'm going through my feed, I look at people's posts as like different entities instead of actual people that I know that, you know, I've spent actual time with and live and breathe with. Like when I'm looking at them, it's almost like they're not this business, but kind of this detached thing off in the world posting this information. And when I look at it, I don't have the, you know, like response of, oh, this is attached to an actual person. It's more just like, oh, a thing that's out there, like a data piece of information generated from somewhere random. I might be the only one that thinks that, but I feel like something about social media creates a distance between what is actually happening in real life, in real relationship with that person, and then like what you're seeing on a screen almost from a distance. Like there's a lack of intimacy, like there's a degree of separation. I still don't fully understand it. Let me know if anybody else has ever had this thought or feeling. So here is your challenge. The whole point of why I made this video. Yes, I'm going to give you homework and you are going to apply it to your real actual life. So the next time that you are tempted to compare yourself to someone else and that causes you to walk down this negative thought path, stop. Think about what you're grateful for. Go back to the dreams list that you wrote. If you haven't written one, write one, daydream, think about it. Get down to the tiniest little way that you can bring it into your life that's practical, that's real, that's sustainable, even if it's so small. And the other thing and more important thing that I'm going to challenge you to do is to be that person's biggest fan, biggest cheerleader. Give them some kudos, give them some encouragement. Oh my gosh, that's so great that you got to go on this trip. I've always wanted to do that. You have to tell me about it. Man, maybe I can pick your brain so that when I go, I will already know all the cool things to do. And you see what I did there with my language? Not like, oh man, I could never take that kind of a trip. That's so cool that you did that. No, it's that tell me about it so that when I do go, because I have the intention to go to complete my dream, we can collaborate and that person will be like, oh yeah, let me tell you this thing. And then you do that thing and you're like, man, I'm so glad that I was excited for this person about this vacation that they went on. And that allowed me to have this cool experience that I would have never had if I never got excited with them about it. So that's my challenge to you. Ouch. I know it's hard sometimes, especially if you're like me. There's probably like a group of people that are watching this that are like, dude, like Christina has some issues. Like I do not ever feel that way, you know, but I'm just being a little honest. And if you do ever feel like, oh man, like, you know, I see this from someone else, I'm tempted to compare myself, this makes me feel a certain way, let it build generosity in you. It's hard, it's painful, it's a growing process. And reach out and be excited for others as they accomplish their dreams. She who refreshes others will herself be refreshed. If no one has told you yet today, you were doing a good job. You were unique. There is no one else like you. You have a purpose and a plan that only you can achieve. And I'm so honored to be here cheering you on. So excited for you. Thank you guys so much for watching Mom Babes and being real with me. And I will catch you next time.